Hi, and welcome to Ivy English. I'm Karen.
And I'm Chris Gorski.
Today is December 10th, and please turn to page 31 in your magazines. And today we're going to read about something that is not really that politically correct these days.
Yeah, we're talking about the Mechanical Turk.
That's our title.
And please.
Now, I was just going to say, anything where you identify any particular nationality, it might end up being sensitive.
Today it's not the best of times to talk about an individual's race or color and then to give certain characteristics. It's like, you're the loud American.
However,
it kind of gives feeling that some people might be uncomfortable with.
That's right. On the other hand, there are a lot of loud Americans around when you go abroad. But then later on, when other countries became richer and they went abroad, they did the same thing. There are loud Chinese, loud Japanese, loud Europeans. Germans can be a real pain. Excuse me.
Yeah.
But it's true.
Yeah, I used to be a tour guide, and you would meet people from all over, and there are cultural differences. But I suspect that it's probably still not the best to go around and categorizing, telling everyone, this is how I feel about all these kinds of people. These billion people are exactly like this. There are definitely changes and variances in that.
Absolutely. Yeah, that is an issue. And so that's why you should be careful about identifying particular groups of people by their nationality or their race or their gender preference or anything like that. On the other hand, this is a historical event, a historical truth. And so that's why I don't think people should be so touchy about it.
Yeah, in terms of the name we're dealing with today, the Mechanical Turk is hundreds of years old. So we're taking this name from context in history when ideas and thoughts were different. And so there are going to be differences in kind of feelings. In fact, when we learn more about the Mechanical Turk, it's going to tell us something about the way people used to think back in the 1700s and 1800s.
When somebody from Turkey, for example, was considered very exotic and kind of interesting.
Yeah, when we think of like wizards and sorcerers, magicians, those are all people that do magic. From the European perspective of that time, it was often thought to be a very quote-unquote Asian thing. And Asia really meant even the Near East, which is kind of like the Middle East, Turkey, Istanbul, and then even something even further like East Asia where we currently are.
Right, something mysterious. Now, this was used recently by Amazon. They offered a service that you could have all kinds of tasks done by freelancers if you pay them a certain price, and then Amazon takes a commission. They called that Mechanical Turk. So if you needed some sorting done or any kind of more mechanical work, you could have it done by humans for a price. And they called it Mechanical Turk because of this historical thing.
I'm guessing it didn't go over well.
It was fine for a while, and then people realized it wasn't very politically correct.
I actually have my own cultural context for the Mechanical Turk comes from the movie Big. I don't know if did you recall this?
I've seen it.
Yeah, so this was a movie that came out when I was a kid in the 80s. It was a Tom Hanks movie. You probably know him. And he was a kid and he wanted to be older. So he goes to this boardwalk, this amusement park, and he makes a wish to like a machine that he was older. And the machine that he makes this wish to, this fortune teller, was a Turk.
That's right. So it was a kind of Mechanical Turk. Well, if you don't know anything about the Mechanical Turk, you need to listen now because we're going to explain it in today's article. Our title again, The Mechanical Turk. A machine beating world chess champions at their own game might not seem like a big deal today, but back in the late 18th century, it definitely was. The Mechanical Turk, also known as the Turk, was a revolutionary machine or automaton. Many marveled at how it could play chess like a genius.
In 1770, Empress Maria Theresa, head of the Habsburg Monarchy, invited Wolfgang von Kempelen, who had training in mathematics and physics, to give his opinion on a magic show she had sponsored. He was not impressed and told the Empress that he could do better. After just 6 months, von Kempelen delivered on his promise. He had built a machine that could play chess.
The machine was a life-size model that consisted of a human head and torso. It was dressed in Turkish robes and turban, hence the name. It sat at a large wooden cabinet on which the games of chess would be played. As part of the show, von Kempelen would open the cabinet doors and show the audience its innermost clockwork machinery. This was done to prove there wasn't anyone inside. Then he'd close the doors, wind up the gears, and invite an audience member to play against it. The Mechanical Turk played against quite a few notable people, including chess master François-André Philidor.
After the Turk was destroyed by fire in 1854, a series of essays were published by Dr. Silas Mitchell, the son of the Turk's final owner. The essays contained detailed information about the machine's inner workings, namely that there had actually been a live human operating the Turk from behind the clockwork machinery. Magnetized chess pieces and the ingenious use of smoke and mirrors had successfully fooled countless people. The Mechanical Turk turned out to be a hoax. Despite its trickery, the machine inspired many people and led to the invention of the first computer.
Really interesting. So the computer started as a big hoax. All right, our title again, The Mechanical Turk. Our first sentence, a machine beating world chess champions at their own game might not seem like a big deal today, but back in the late 18th century, it definitely was. Now, I think there's something, what wasn't it called, Big Blue or something that IBM invented?
Right, I recall it being on the TV show Jeopardy. There were a few of those computers, and they put some really good Jeopardy players up against them. And this machine was so fast and so good, they could not beat it. Jeopardy is a quiz show in America it's quite challenging.
Yeah.
You need a wide breadth of knowledge.
Right, and a lot of it is what I would call trivia. It's just a lot of facts. But this invention by IBM specifically played chess, and they kept working on it until it was good enough to play a good chess player and win. And the question was, could it beat a real chess champion? You know, the best chess player in the world. And in the end, it could.
It could. That's incredible to think. And but then again, once computing power had reached it seems it's at once amazing. And then maybe today in the context of 2021, it's, well, yeah, of course. In some ways, it's both.
We get so blasé about it. The word blasé is worth learning. B-L-A-S-E with a little accent over the E. Blasé means, no big deal. Who cares? Although at the time, it was just unimaginable. It was national news. It was just unimaginable that it could happen. And in fact, it was unimaginable and it wasn't real. We're going to find out later. All right, so back at the time, that was just something nobody could imagine. That would be just too difficult for a machine. Machines could do some things. They could add and subtract and do simple arithmetic, but certainly not play chess. Our next sentence, the Mechanical Turk, also known as the Turk, was a revolutionary machine or automaton. Automaton is a word from Latin. It's a very fancy word for robot, R-O-B-O-T, robot. That means a machine that acts like a person, in some ways anyway. Okay, so they called it a Turk, and as Chris and I were discussing at the beginning of the program, Turks had different dress, and they had a lot of Middle Eastern culture, quite different from Europe. So they seem kind of mysterious and very exotic. Exotic is E-X-O-T-I-C. E-X-O-T-I-C, something that comes from another country and is very, very, very mysterious and unusual and kind of attractive. So that's why they tried to make it look kind of special and exotic. So they built this thing, a Mechanical Turk, they called it, and it was a really big deal because they were claiming that this machine could actually beat a human at chess. Our last sentence of the paragraph, many marveled at how it could play chess like a genius. So a lot of people were really, really surprised and amazed that a machine could play chess as well as a very, very good chess player, human chess player. Now, in fact, I read a book that told you how you could program a computer to play chess. Somebody actually did it, but its capabilities were very, very, very limited. It could only do a few simple moves for maybe the first 4 moves. So later on, even very recently, it wasn't that shocking that a computer could play chess, but it wasn't very good. It's very hard to make it play well. So at the time, it was even more unimaginable.
So this is the setup of the Mechanical Turk, but it's the details that I really love in this story. Let's look at paragraph 2. In 1770, Empress Maria Theresa, head of the Habsburg Monarchy, invited Wolfgang von Kempelen, who had training in mathematics and physics, to give his opinion on a magic show she had sponsored.
All right, the Habsburg Monarchy is something maybe Chris should fill us in on because that was a very, very famous and very long-lasting monarchy in Europe and in the end, very, very corrupt.
They were, of course, incredibly powerful. They were part of the Austrian monarchy. So we have a little bit of historical context here. So we have a magic show, and we have this empress invite this really well-known mathematician and physicist come and give his opinion, which today sounds stupid because it's like, well, it's magic, it's fake. But back in the 1770s, the idea of magic being real was still a real concept, and people had to kind of break these two ideas apart at the time. Let's continue to our next sentence. He was not impressed and told the empress that he could do better. And I love that confidence.
I do too. So they're like, you call that a magic show?
Yeah, I could do that.
I can do that.
Let's continue. After just 6 months, von Kempelen delivered on his promise.
Now, we'll see later in the article how he delivered, and that's how he was so fast.
He had built a machine that could play chess. Outstanding.
Yeah, that's right. If you're going to cheat, a lot of things are easier.
Right now, at this point in the story, you're like, wow, this guy's really good. What did he do? How did he do it? Let's find out.
He's a genius. The machine was a life-size model that consisted of a human head and torso. Now, torso is the main part of your body, like starting from your neck, going down to your hips, that part in the middle that houses your vital organs like your heart and your lungs and your liver and your intestines and things. That part of your body is called the torso. It's a common enough word, but we don't usually use it in everyday speech. We'll just say your body, the main part of your body, but torso is the proper word for it. Okay, next sentence. It was dressed in Turkish robes and turban, hence the name. So robes rather than a shirt and pants and a jacket. That's the typical Western way of dressing even back then. And also the turban, that's a cloth that you wrap around in a kind of a knot on your head. So that to Europeans then, as even now, was quite exotic. So that gave it even a more feeling of mystery when they were doing their so-called magic.
And when we say hence the name or hence the something, some title, it just means, and that's how we got to this conclusion.
That's right. Because they dressed up this made-up character, which was only there for show. There was no particular function to this character being Turkish. They made it look more exotic. And because they gave it Turkish dress, that is why it has the name of Mechanical Turk. Our next sentence, it sat at a large wooden cabinet on which the games of chess would be played. All right. On which the game of chess would be played, that's just the type of game they're playing. But when they say the games of chess, that means they're going to have several matches. A lot of people playing chess many times, then you can add the S. Otherwise, the game of chess means which game you're playing. The games means the many, many matches that they held. As part of the show, von Kempelen would open the cabinet doors and show the audience its innermost clockwork machinery. Of course, everybody would think that, oh, this is a trick. Let me see the inside. I bet there's somebody hiding in there who is actually doing the playing. And you go, no, look, I've got all this machinery in there. I'm going to open the doors. You can see it's just a bunch of machinery. There's no human in there. Of course, that is distraction because the human is hiding in some other place. This was done to prove there wasn't anyone inside. And we've already said that. They want to say, look, there's no person in there. But that doesn't prevent them from having a person behind. We'll have it explained later on.
I really like the quotes here. You can already feel that there's something going on here. The quotes are really useful in this sentence.
It's very fishy. This whole thing is very fishy. Then he'd close the doors, wind up the gears, and invite an audience member to play against it. Now, to even further convince people that this was not fake, this was real, they'd pick anybody from the audience because if they had their own person play the game, he could lose on purpose, no problem. But anybody from the audience is fine. Come on, try to play against the Mechanical Turk.
Now, like we were speaking earlier, that this was a time where we needed to separate magic from science. And one thing von Kempelen would also invite members to do is bring magnets over towards the machine. Magnets were considered quite magical at the time, and they didn't quite understand how everything worked.
Well, I have to say that we still don't understand how magnets work. We still don't really understand it.
I don't think we see them as magic, though. And then maybe that's what I'm getting at, is that they would bring lodestones, they would bring magnets, heavy magnets, and they would see if that could affect the Mechanical Turk. Now, because, as we'll learn, that there's a little bit of a secret here, that of course it wouldn't have affected it. But magnets played a big part in trying to show you that this is not some kind of trickery. It's just a really good machine.
Uh-huh. All right, our last sentence of the paragraph. The Mechanical Turk played against quite a few notable people, including the chess master François-André Philidor. So not only ordinary audience members, but people who were very, very good at chess played against the Mechanical Turk.
So two other people that the Mechanical Turk played against was Benjamin Franklin, the famous American writer and statesman, and Napoleon Bonaparte, the Emperor of France. And this is a really big deal. This is probably one of the most famous people in the world at this time. Napoleon was no fool. He definitely wasn't, but he also was quite good-natured in many ways. When he played the Mechanical Turk, they sat at different tables. Napoleon did not sit with the Turk. And they had a person kind of walk between the two to make sure everything was easy. And typically, the Mechanical Turk would play first. Napoleon would then take a move. However, this is Napoleon. He doesn't listen to anybody. He goes first.
Oh.
Mechanical Turk is like, okay, he's just going to go with it. It's a machine, right? It's just, okay, I'm going to go second. Napoleon tries an illegal move. He tries to do something that you can't do in chess. The Mechanical Turk takes Napoleon's piece and puts it back.
I didn't know that.
Napoleon takes it and tries it again on his turn. The Mechanical Turk takes the piece, puts it back. Napoleon tries it a third time. The Mechanical Turk knocks the pieces off the table.
Really?
This is a true story.
Oh.
Napoleon thinks this is unbelievably wonderful, gives it kind of like a little clap, and then they play a real game. It took only 19 moves for the Mechanical Turk to beat Napoleon.
What an amazing story.
What an amazing story. Isn't that? I love this story.
I absolutely do too. And then he's a real leader, the way he handled everything. Okay, we have one paragraph left.
Let's continue. After the Turk was destroyed by fire in 1854, a series of essays were published by Dr. Silas Mitchell, the son of the Turk's final owner.
All right, now the secret is going to come out. So this wonderful Mechanical Turk, it was destroyed in a fire, so it was gone. But actually, the son of the Turk's final owner knew what was going on. And so after the whole thing was destroyed, and it was much later, he wrote what really was going on.
The essays contained detailed information about the machine's inner workings, namely that there had actually been a live human operating the Turk from behind the clockwork machinery.
All right, that means all bets are off. If it's a really good chess player who is operating it, then you're just playing against a really good chess player. However, there is something else to solve, is how did they get the pieces to move around the way they did? How did they do that with the machine?
So there was a metal plate. The chessboard was a metal plate, and the pieces were very lightly magnetized. And so when they brought those magnets over, it might affect the pieces, but they usually weren't set on the board at that time. And so you would just look like that if you were using a magnet, that the pieces would just tip over. It really wouldn't affect the machine.
Well, that's how they did it. The
chess master could see from underneath. He would hold a candle and then just look at the board upside down. So not only was he playing other chess masters and other people, he was also playing chess upside down.
I didn't know that one either.
Yeah, and this is a chess master that cleared the board in front of Napoleon, which makes it all the more brave.
Impressive. That's right. Okay, your sentence.
Let's continue. Magnetized chess pieces and the ingenious use of smoke and mirrors had successfully fooled countless people.
You will notice that smoke and mirrors is in double quotes. They did not necessarily use smoke. They may have used mirrors, but probably not smoke. Smoke is something that you can use to hide behind when you're pulling some shenanigans. You're doing a trick. You don't want people to see what you're doing. Smoke and mirrors just means using trickery. That means people are doing something dishonest in the background. They're doing some kind of a trick.
Our next sentence, the Mechanical Turk turned out to be a hoax.
A hoax is something designed to fool people. All right, make sure you know the difference between to cheat and to fool. Usually, cheat means that you are getting money from them. or some other thing that you want. You are cheating them. You're not following the rules. But if you're fooling them, that means you're just causing them to believe something that is not true.
Our final sentence today, despite its trickery, the machine inspired many people and led to the invention of the first computer.
So, although it was a big hoax, it actually had some useful things in it. It actually had some good effects. We're going to go right to our questions now. Number 1, according to the passage, which of the following statements is not true? And the answer is D. The truth of the machine's capability was well established before its destruction. So that is not true. People did not find out about how that machine actually worked until the machine had been destroyed and the son of the Turk's final owner had written out the whole explanation.
If I'm not mistaken, everyone else was already dead.
Okay, so that makes it even easier to tell the truth.
Number 2, why did von Kempelen reveal the inside of the cabinet to the audience before the show?
This one's kind of shocking because you're going to have to write out an answer yourself. You can't just pick ABC or D. And the answer is, if you want to make it simple, to prove, in quotes, there wasn't anyone inside. But you could write it in many different ways. The way I originally wrote it was a bit fancier. It was to allay their suspicions of trickery. Allay means to reduce. Make them less suspicious. That means you're wondering if something is wrong here, of trickery, that someone's playing a trick. That answer would be okay, but it's best to stick with the simplest answer, and that is to prove there wasn't anyone inside.
Number 3, 6 sentences in the passage are numbered 1 to 6. Write down the number of the sentence that best indicates when the public was let in on the secret of the Turk.
To answer this question, you have to go and look back at the written text. So if you don't have it, go online, buy the magazine, whatever. And you look at all of the numbered statements, and the one that gives us the information that we want, which is namely the sentence that tells us about the time that people found out the secret, it's the first sentence of paragraph 4, and it is numbered 4. That sentence is, after the Turk was destroyed by fire in 1854, a series of essays were published by Dr. Silas Mitchell, the son of the Turk's final owner. That tells us the approximate time that people found out about the trick.
Now, after sentence 4, we have sentence 5, which actually just kind of tells you that you were in fact tricked. It doesn't actually tell you that when this all took place.
So this question, you mainly just have to look for a year, and here it's 1854, and that is the right place. It won't always work, but that'll help you find it faster. Question 4?
Fill in the blanks with the information contained in the passage about the Mechanical Turk. So we have this nice little chart here. The title is The Anatomy, that means the makeup of your body, of the Mechanical Turk. And we have 3 different divisions here, the model, the accessories, and the wooden cabinet.
And for the model, it starts the sentence for you, or the phrase. It says made up of. That means it consists of. And the answer should be human, or a human head and torso. The head of a person and also the main part of your body, a human head and torso. The second one is the accessories. That means things that are not really a part of the machine, but they're kind of like decorations that make it look fancier and more attractive and more convincing. And the answer to the accessories is
Turkish robes and a turban, which we actually took a moment to discuss more about.
That's right. And then the last one is the wooden cabinet. And they already give you the answer to that. It's a chessboard on top and clockwork machinery inside. And we're done. That's it for today. Please tune in next time. We'll see you then.
Bye-bye.